Hey guys, it's Melissa here from melissaoatman.com. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness. I am so delighted to have you with me here today. Today we're going to be talking about the new lunar eclipse energies that are bringing about change in your life. They're bringing about the need to let things go that no longer work for you, and new beginnings are going to be happening everywhere in your life, and you may be seeing changes in direction in a lot of different areas. So we're going to talk about that and how to navigate that. But before we get started today, I want to talk to you about a sale that's currently going on right now. Right now on my website, you can take 10% off for Black Friday on any of my services, and all you have to do is enter the code Black Friday in all caps in the coupon code at checkout to take 10% off, whether it's a Reiki session, a reading, or a past life regression, or coaching. And there's also my new 60-day transformational journal, which is a journal for anyone who is looking for self-development and growth. Every day, the journal includes a quote or an affirmation, as well as a journal prompt to help you do things like set goals for yourself, identify and get rid of any negative limiting beliefs you hold about yourself, about love, about money, or to help you realize your passion in life and to find your dreams, and also to help you build self-love. And this is 60 days of journaling to help you build a better new you and new life. So New Year's is coming up just around the corner. Many of us have these New Year's resolutions that we want to have a better life. We want to do things to improve ourselves. The 60-day transformational journal is an excellent way to do that. And you can take 10% off now until Friday. That is Black Friday. So we can take 10% off the journal, off any session with me. All you have to do, again, is put in the code Black Friday at checkout, and you will save 10%. So please don't hesitate. Don't wait. Sign up. And if you need anything from me, don't hesitate to reach out. I do not mind talking to you. A lot of people say, I would like to do a session, but I'm not really sure what's the best for me. Absolutely reach out. I'd love to talk to you, or you can even book a free discovery call with me. And that's all on my website, melissaoatman.com. All right, so let's get into the topic for today. The lunar eclipse, that actually happened on the 19th, and it brought about a lot of challenging, unstable energy, because the purpose of this eclipse was to reveal old patterns and insecurities that bring blockages to your life. It also probably brought about a lot of fears in your life too that came to the surface. I know for me, I had several things happen that week where I had to confront speaking my truth. I had to talk about setting healthy boundaries with people, and that's really uncomfortable for me because I'm a people pleaser from way back. I should say reformed. I'm trying to be better. But a lot of the times that I suffer in life have to do with areas in which I have to speak my truth and I have to set a healthy boundary with people. And there were 3 major events where this happened for me in the past couple of weeks. And I know it was all because of this lunar eclipse energy. One of them was with a family member, and I had to have a very uncomfortable conversation with this family member. And it led to a lot of conflict that did eventually get resolved, but it was very uncomfortable going through that space. But I knew I had to do it, and I knew that this was a test for me. Another time was with a potential business opportunity, and I had to speak my truth. And again, not a comfortable territory for me, but I had to do it. And that situation is still up in the air, but I know that what I had to do was the right thing to do. And we'll see how that works out. Either way, I know that this is a test for me, because many times I am so optimistic about everything and I want to jump right in and be like, yeah, this is great. This sounds awesome. And I want to, take on everything. And what I've learned is, of course, you cannot do that. You can't really give your energy, can't give good energy if it's just all over the place. So that was one area where I had to set a healthy boundary. And you may be feeling this in your life right now. You may be feeling very heavy energies, and you may be feeling like old patterns are coming to the surface again because you have to deal with it. And I had a listener who reached out and was talking about, I do readings for my Patreon members, only for the top tier Patreon members, but I do readings for them each week. And one of the readings, she said, oh my gosh, this was spot on, because it brought about the fact that I am having to go and deal with a family member that I don't really care for, because this person is super critical, and it brings up old wounding where I'm not enough. And I think we all have dealt with people like that in our lives who absolutely trigger us, because they trigger that wounding of you're not enough, you don't have enough, or, you could be better. There's all of the triggers that people have, whatever it was from childhood that seems to get triggered in you, that might be being brought to the surface this week because of these heavy energies. It's all happening for a reason. And we may have the tendency to get upset and to feel like we're victims and to act maybe in an emotionally immature way. For example, if someone punches you in the arm, your gut reaction is to punch them back, right? I mean, that's just your nature. And in a lot of ways, our gut reactions to things that people do to us when they trigger us is to react in a way that's not emotionally mature. Whether that is unfriending someone on Facebook, or ghosting someone, or blocking, or whatever. There's a whole list of things that people do that are like gut reactions that really are not emotionally mature. And I've experienced that from all kinds of people in my life, but I've been especially experiencing that in certain relationships in my life right now, with family members. And so that's been a very difficult thing for me, but it's also brought about the need for me to, number one, stay emotionally balanced and not get upset and lose it, to have to maintain my cool. Because if I stoop to that level and I start doing all of the things that I want to do that are also emotionally immature, I'm not helping anything. So I have to be very conscious about my own reactions and my own feelings and thoughts. And this is where using tools like journaling or meditation or EFT tappings is really important, because it's hard to be balanced by yourself. It's hard to do that. Your brain wants to focus on all the negative things and all the ways that things could possibly go wrong. So you have to stop what you're doing, pay attention to the thoughts that are running through your head, and have tools ready to go at your disposal so that when you get triggered, you don't immediately have that gut reaction, because it's totally normal for you to be human and to have that gut reaction. But we have to try to control our emotions. It doesn't mean not have our emotions, but you can control them by, again, writing out what you're feeling in your journal. And then also, when you have a plan for how you're going to respond to someone, that's so much better. And you have to have that, because if you're just having a back and forth dialogue and you're just going based on your emotions, it can go all over the place. Literally this week I got screamed at by someone in my family, and it was super irrational. The argument didn't make any sense, and it triggered me a lot to want to cut back and say mean things, but I had to control myself and take a moment, because that wasn't going to help anything and it wasn't going to solve anything. And it's hard to deal rationally with an irrational person, so someone who's being irrational. So sometimes you have to excuse yourself and walk away and gain your composure. So you may be dealing with those kinds of situations in your life, in relationships right now. You may have limiting beliefs that are rearing their ugly heads right now, like maybe you're struggling with finances right now. It's all happening for a reason. It's happening for you to identify these old patterns of behavior, because finances, that's a pattern of behavior. Have you always feared money? Have you always felt like you didn't have enough? If so, that may be being heightened right now, because the universe is saying, look at this right here. You need to fix this. What's happening? What's really going on? Because fear is usually at the source of all of those things. But how do you get rid of that? How do you get past it so that you can come on the other side of it and not allow fear to absolutely control your life? Because that's what fear does. It causes us to do things we would never normally do, to react in ways that we would never normally react. Maybe you have old insecurities that are being triggered right now. In the case of a listener, it was a family member who kept triggering this by criticizing. Maybe you're dealing with family members who criticize you right now, and that's bringing up old insecurities. It's frustrating. Believe me, it's frustrating to go through, but it's happening for a reason and with a purpose. So instead of getting upset, instead of saying, this isn't fair, why does this always happen to me? Instead of being a victim, it's really important right now for you to be curious and ask instead, why is this happening for me right now? What is this teaching me right now? Because there is a lesson in it. It is teaching you something. For many of us, it's teaching us that there are ways that we behave that we need to change. Or it's teaching us that we need to build our self-love. Or it's teaching us that we need to stop caring what other people think about us and instead start worrying more about what we think about ourselves. There's a lot of different patterns of behavior that are being brought to the surface right now. And old wounding being brought to the surface. If you have inner child wounding, yeah, you're probably getting triggered. And the reason is because the universe is trying to prepare us to leave behind what doesn't serve. And I know that you're going to say to me, but Melissa, you've said this every time we have a full moon or every time, we have some sort of astrological event. You keep saying that that's what this is about. Yes, I do, because it is what it's about. But this was even stronger of an event. This was bringing things up in a bigger way. Like you may have had things come to a complete head or a complete explosion in your life. And maybe you had a more emotional reaction than you've ever had before to certain things. It's happening for a reason because the universe is trying to prepare you to go into the next stage of your life without all that baggage. You're supposed to be letting it go so that you can feel lighter and you can live a life of ease. And you're not going to be able to do that if you are allowing fear to run the show. And many of us are still allowing fear to run the show. The problem is, if you don't face your issues, if you don't face the childhood wounding, if you don't look at it, if you don't try to clear it, it's still there. It's going to stay there and it's going to wreak havoc on your life because it's going to run the show subconsciously. You may think, yeah, I've done the work, I've done this, I've done that. If you haven't truly done the deep diving work and really looked at your life and started changing the things that are not working for you or started healing the old behavior patterns that you know you have because it came from childhood wounding, you're going to keep repeating the same cycles over and over and over again. And if you don't heal it in this lifetime, you're going to take it to your next lifetime. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be running around in my next few lifetimes having to deal with the same crap that I've dealt with in this one. There are a lot of things I don't want to repeat. So I want to make sure that I'm doing my work and healing those issues. So now is a really good time for you to maybe sit down and say, okay, what's been going on in the past few weeks? Has there been something, heavy energy? Have I had difficulty with relationships? Which ones? What's been happening? Get very, very curious about what's been going on in your life and how you've been feeling. And now look at it and say, where does this come from? A really good question to ask yourself is, when was the first time that I remember feeling this way? And that can usually bring us back to childhood issues, wounding, conditioning. And oftentimes it's not even just from this lifetime. It's from past lifetimes that we brought over again and again and again. Because for some reason, we like doing the same things over and over and over again, which is pretty much the definition of insanity. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. So it's time to start doing something different. And a lot of times we need help with that. I do. I have to go to counselors and coaches often to help me. And, I think about most recently in my business, okay, the same thing keeps happening over and over again. Why? Because you're doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so fix that, change that, do this instead. When you start shifting your behavior, your life starts shifting. Often it can be as simple as shifting the way we think about things and the way that we perceive things and the way we do things. Sometimes it's deeper than that. But everything is figure-outable and everything is fixable. I love that Marie Forleo, I think that's who it is, says everything's figure-outable. It is. You don't have to keep living the same way day after day after day just because you've been doing it day after day after day. You can wake up tomorrow and say, I want to live a different life. And all it would take would be to start changing one thing at a time. And I'm not talking about moving away and completely shifting your life. You can do that, but it doesn't take that. It's something as simple as doing one or two things differently every day. And a habit is something that you do consistently. And we mostly think of habits as being bad things, but honestly, there are good habits like eating healthy, brushing your teeth every day. That's a good habit. So if you were to change one or two things that you did consistently every day over and over again, it would become a habit for you. Something you wouldn't even have to think about doing because you just do it out of habit. Because it's a habit. Again, there's that word. So what can you do differently? That's what I love about the 60-day transformational journal too, because it's making a habit of taking time to do self-care. You're putting yourself first by doing things that are going to make you feel better. By journaling every day, if you get an affirmation, you're learning a new affirmation that you can tell yourself. That is a new thought that you will believe about yourself every day. Perhaps you set a goal for yourself that you'll come back and look at every day that's going to fuel you to do more positive things in your life. It's going to force you to sit down and look at what you have been doing and say to yourself, is this working? If not, why am I doing this over and over and over again? Because I do something 50 times doesn't mean it's going to actually work on the 50th time. It means if it's not working, maybe on the next time I try it, I should shift what I do and try something a little different. Maybe then that'll work. You can't get results by just doing the same thing over and over again. You have to start changing what it is that you're doing. And the biggest thing I see is a lot of people right now wanting to say, I'm a victim, it's not fair, the universe always does this to me. And that's simply not true. It's not true. You have to look at the role that you play in things. And that's uncomfortable. I had to look at the role that I played in my conflict with my family member. Because I wasn't innocent in everything. And I knew I wasn't innocent. But I had to look at it and say, okay, what portion of this is mine? And what portion of this is that person's? And how do we come together so that we're in agreement, at least in enough of an agreement that we can carry on with our lives and be civil and get along? And it's not easy because, again, you have to look at what you're doing right now that isn't working. So you have to shift that. That's where I love the journaling, because that's a good way. I do this a lot even with my finances. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll just look at, okay, what am I doing currently? And how's that working out for me? Oh, what could I do differently? Oh, I know. I could put back $5 more in savings. It could be something little or small like that. I could not go and grab coffee at Starbucks or do it one less time. Just little things here and there that you can tweak to see how you can improve your budget. Something with finances, but you can do that with every area of your life. Okay, why am I so miserable? Oh, because I have to hang out with this family member and I really don't care for them. How could I do that less? What could I do so that I do that less? Oh, I know, I don't have to say yes every time they call me and ask for something. I can set a healthy boundary. I can say no. I don't have to be around that person as much. And a lot of people will make you feel guilty for not being around family members. If they're toxic to you, and if they're rude to you, and if they put you down and they criticize you and they make you feel bad, forget them. You owe no one. You don't owe them anything just because they happen to be born in the same lineage of DNA. You owe them nothing. Protect your own energy. So sit down and start looking at where in your life things can be improved. That's really what this eclipse is all about. It's about letting go of the old patterns that aren't working through the insecurities that you have, either through building your self-love or honestly just getting real and honest with yourself. Because if you were to really look at your life, if you said, oh, I suck, and I suck for this reason, but then you sat down and you looked at your life, people might say, no, you're awesome. They wouldn't have the same opinion that you do because you're way more critical of yourself. So it's about letting go of that inner critic and instead focusing, just shift your perspective. Instead of looking at all the ways you think you're a failure, start looking at all of the ways that you've succeeded in your life. You've had success. You obviously have. Where has that been? How did that feel? Can you repeat that? Yes, you can. You can find ways to be successful in your life. It's about not focusing on the ways in which your life didn't go right, and instead focusing on the ways in which it did. And building more on that, because if you were successful once, you can be successful again. But it takes focused intention and really looking at where you need to let things go and where you need to maybe start adopting new habits. But it is possible to live a completely different life. And if you look back at your life from 6 months ago, you may be like, yeah, I was in a really bad place there. Look how much better it is now. Well, in 6 months from now, it can be even better than that. All it really takes to do a big transformation is, honestly, you can do it in 30 days, 60 days. But 6 months, you can make huge change and progress in 6 months. Anyone can do it. And you might need help, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people need help in life. I think everyone should have a coach and a counselor because it's super helpful. But there are a lot of things you can do on your own too. Just make the change. Do something. Don't sit there and pretend like you're a victim. You're not. Everything that has happened to you in your life is a result of choices you've made. And that's tough. It's tough to say that. And I look back at my own life, and I've been, for some reason lately, what's been coming up for me is just people randomly talking about my marriage, my previous marriage. And it'll bring up all of the ways in which I was mistreated. And I think back, and part of me wants to be angry and just say, like, that wasn't fair. But honestly, it was a result of my action because I knew I should not be getting married to that person. I knew this person was not good for me. I knew I should have broken free sooner than I did. And I didn't make those changes. So the circumstances, everything that came after that was a result of a choice that I made, or rather a choice I didn't make because I made a choice to not move, to not get out of a really bad situation, a situation that I knew was not good for me, and I did it anyway. I stayed anyway. So even now, I am still dealing with the consequences of that action. But I don't feel like a victim because I know that I was responsible, and I know that I can still fix everything. Like, everything is still fixable, and everything will be okay. But I can't stay in a victim mindset and say this isn't fair. That doesn't fix anything. I have to take responsibility for my part and the role that I played, learn the lesson, because there is a lesson in it, learn the lesson, and decide that I'm never going to do that again, that I'm going to behave differently from now on. And that's where the true learning and growth comes. And that's what this lunar eclipse is all about. It's about learning and growing and leaving behind what isn't serving us. And the best way to do that is to sit down with yourself and have an honest conversation and say, in what ways is my own behavior bringing about all of the things that I'm not happy with in my life? because it is a result of your behavior. You're not a victim of anything. You are absolutely responsible for all of the things that happen. And it's your responsibility to change those things. And they can be changed. That's the good news. It shouldn't make you feel bad or guilty. Don't look at things with shame. Instead, look at it as an opportunity for you to change the things you're doing so that you can get better results. It's like if I want to lose weight and I just sit on the couch every day for a week and I don't lose any weight, and then I get angry and frustrated and I'm like, I'm a victim. I could never lose any weight. It's not fair. How are my choices playing a role in that? My choices are playing a role because I choose not to work out, or I chose not to eat healthy. But if I make a little change, if I choose that, you know what? I'm going to work out 1 day a week. I'm going to start with that because I'm working out no days a week. I'm going to start with 1 day and see where that goes. You're going to see a little change. You are. It's the consistent change that you make and do. It's that habit that you form that's going to make the true difference. And a little bit adds up. It really does. So I encourage you during this lunar eclipse season here that we're going through to look at what needs to be let go, to look at old patterns you need to change, to look at your insecurities and work on turning those around and instead focusing on your strengths so that in the next season, you're going to be an even better and new improved version of yourself. All right, guys, I love that. And I want to just give a huge shout out to my friend Margaret. Margaret is a beautiful and amazing healer, and I had the opportunity to be on her podcast a while ago. And she lovingly was willing to do a healing session for my mom yesterday, and she loved it so much. And she gave her beautiful messages to keep fighting and that she just needed to be more positive. And of course, these are all things we've told her all along. But you know how it is. When someone close to you tells you, you don't really hear it the same way you do when someone that you don't know tells you. So she really took it to heart and it really comforted her and made her feel better. So I just really want to give you a huge shout out, Margaret. Thank you so much for that. And I want to thank all of you for listening to me too and for being here with me. I pulled 2 cards for you today to give you some messages. And the cards I pulled are from the Ask Your Guides deck by Sonia Choquette. And the first one is New Beginnings. You are about to go through some new doors. New opportunities are coming forward for you right now. And the universe is ushering you through them. They're guiding you and telling you that new opportunities that come to you are being divinely guided. So walk through those doors with confidence. And then you have victory. I love that. I feel like these two go together. Again, the universe is bringing you success, but know that you didn't do it all alone. The universe also played a part in that. So be sure to express gratitude for everyone who's helped you along the way, including your spiritual team. And know that you are victorious and these opportunities are going to bring you a lot of happiness and success. So welcome them with open arms. I love those messages. All right, guys, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe. Please leave a positive review from wherever you're listening. You can leave me some stars on iTunes. I would very much appreciate that. Also, don't forget, you can work with me. And from now until Black Friday, you can take 10% off of all of my services. You can now purchase my new 60-day transformational journal. And coming soon, I'm going to be having a merchandise store where you can order shirts and cups, which will have the Awaken Your Inner Awesomeness logo on it, as well as inspirational quotes. So keep an eye out for that. That will be coming soon, and I will get you more information about that as soon as it happens. But I want to make sure I get you guys the best deals and the best quality items. So I'm doing my research, and I can't wait for that stuff to come out. I hope that you guys have a beautiful day from wherever you're listening. And don't forget to join me on social media. I go live Mondays at 6:30 Central on Facebook, where I do a free card reading. If you show up for the live, I'll pull a card especially for you. I did not go live the last 2 weeks, but I will be starting again, so please join me. And also, I am sending you so much love and light, wishing you many blessings, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.